Hello friends, and welcome back to Silverhawk Farm. If you're new here, my name is Bree and I am on the floor in my garden, and I figured today that I could show you a little bit about our irrigation system. I was talking to a friend recently, hi Joe, and basically, like he mentioned, having to go out and water his garden because they hadn't gotten rain, and I was preaching the good word of irrigation because it is the single best thing you can do if you're a lazy gardener in an area that sometimes doesn't get enough rain. If you live somewhere super duper rainy, like watch one of my cooking videos, but if you live somewhere where you go times where you don't get water for a long time, irrigation can help you save so much time, keep your plants like much more regular, your fruits much more regular, and most importantly, keep you from having to go out in the scalding hot. Like recently, I have been turning on my irrigation for a little bit before super hot afternoons. So if it's gonna be super hot in the afternoon, say like 95 degrees Fahrenheit, I will go ahead and turn on my irrigation. Since it's drip irrigation, I'm not flooding it out if I leave it on for a while, and it basically just helps me keep the temperatures cool of my soil, which will help the plants struggle less in the heat and hopefully produce more for me overall. So my irrigation system is so simple. All it is I have an attachment to where I would hook up my hose right next to the house, and it is basically just like a splitter. So I still have my regular hose on it. I use that to water the chickens, and then it goes out into, there are two types of tubing that we have. One has no holes in it and is meant to get the water to the beds, and then one is the actual drip irrigation tubing, which mine has holes every 18 inches. So that's really helpful for kind of easy, low maintenance setup. You can absolutely like tailor it exactly to how your garden works. So for example, you can have the tubing that doesn't have holes in it, and then you can install your own holes, or you can also get like emitters that'll spray in a different radius. There's all sorts of customization options. Ours are super duper simple. So we have this black tubing that doesn't have holes in it. The brown tubing here does have holes in it. And what I'm doing today is I'm adding on a little bit so that I can reach my oldest son has his own bed that he decides what goes in and helps me. He helps me with it. He doesn't do all of the maintenance for it because those plants would die. He doesn't like the heat, but he'll come out and help me harvest and stuff, and he always gets excited to help plant it. So I'm going to be running the irrigation from our original 8 beds that we have up front here to the back small bed that he has, and I figured it would be a great time to show you how our irrigation system works. So right here is actually a place where it split. It got hit by the lawnmower. We don't have it buried like these black tubes. We don't have them buried. They're just low enough, and they sit low enough on the ground that the mower goes over them and it isn't a problem. Usually the grass grows over it pretty well, and it's kind of hard to see in the grass in most places. But this place, it split. So all we need to do here is cut off the 2 tubes and conjoin them with this. The brand that I use is Rainbird because that's what Menards had. I got all my stuff from Menards. You can get it from any Menards, Lowe's, Depot, Home Depot, like most places that have like hardware store vibes should have, that's like a decent size, should have some sort of irrigation options for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this guy up. I did get this handy dandy tool. This thing, I just got that today. I haven't used it yet, so I'm going to show you using clippers because that's what most normal people have, and you might not need the handy dandy tool, but I liked that it has the hole puncher thing so that I can punch some custom holes. For example, if I'm growing lettuce, I don't need to space it 18 inches apart, so I would like to punch some holes in that. So I'm excited to try that out, but for right now, I'm just going to show you. I have my garden shears. This is hilarious because the last garden video I couldn't find my garden shears, so I used scissors. I was preferring to use scissors for this, but I can't find them, so I'm using garden shears. We've come full circle, but all I'm gonna do is do a really straight cut, straight up this. Same guy here. The irrigation's obviously off right now. It's about to rain, actually. I'm trying to finish this up before it rains, but it's a beautiful day to do work because it's not hot. And I can grow beans. All right, just shove it in there, and kind of got like this locking thing. So you shove it in there and then it pretty much just stays put. I will test it when I turn the water on to make sure it's not leaking at all here. But yeah, that feels pretty tight. Oh, no, no. It should be, if it's properly installed, it should actually be really hard to pull back out. So I'm gonna shove this guy a little further in. Yeah, that should do it. All right, so that'll fix that leak. Look, this duct tape lasted for a while. I was still running it with the duct tape, and like enough water got through to water the rest of the beds that are on the other end of the line, but obviously not ideal. So we'll be tossing that away, but the rest of this is fine. It's really not a big deal. If it gets some holes in it, it's super easy to patch. So I'm gonna grab some extra tubing to start on my son's bed, and I will bring you back there. All right, I am moved over. This is actually one of the long beds. This is one of the 12-foot beds that we have the trellis on, and I'm going to be attaching it to this point to move over to my son's bed, because that'll be the least amount of wiring going through the grass. And I'm hoping that that'll be easiest. So I did try this to get the tubing, and it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna be using that for the rest of the video. If you're not planning on cutting your own holes, you don't need this thing, but it was like 12 bucks and I'm excited to try it out. So it does make a nice firm cut, and it's something that I feel like my kid could help me with, like under close supervision, because this thing could chop a finger off, but like, you know, it's closed. It feels very safe once you've got it clamped. So what I'm gonna do is clamp right here, push it down, that'll separate those two, and I'm gonna use one of these T attachments, and you just gotta shove it really hard. That's in kind of like twist. Takes some getting used to, but if you do a semi-firm tug on it and it doesn't come out, that's usually how you know it's gonna be watertight. And then I've got my black tubing, which is the tubing for me that has no holes. I'm gonna be running a line down. I'm gonna be using these connectors to go at the end of the bed, at the edge of the bed here, and then also at the ground going over. And that's how I keep it so flat against the ground that I don't need to bury it. Or at least I haven't needed to bury it. My husband has hit it a few times. We've had to patch some holes, but like, we saw how easy that was, and digging is annoying. So I just need like I'm gonna say like a 5-inch segment of the black. Actually, let me just put it over here rather than eyeballing it. So we'll go in a little ways. Let's call it here. And it doesn't need to be super exact. Like, I've never had issues really. And we kind of just like cobbled this together. But it is, I cannot explain how helpful it is. We actually first got irrigation when I was pregnant with my youngest, and we had this big flourishing beautiful garden, but I realized that I was gonna get heat stroke if I was out, well, I would have been like 8 months pregnant around this time of year. Ugh. And someone who's 8 months pregnant does not need to be out in 95-degree weather watering tomatoes for 2 hours a day, which is about what it took to keep the tomatoes watered for a garden my size. But one thing that I want to impress on people is, like, you don't need to have a big fancy garden. I know irrigation sounds like this like really high-tech farmer thing, but really it's just a series of tubes and plastic you get from Menards, and it'll save you so much time and headache if you have to spend time watering. Cutting this guy, this is gonna go to the ground. That'll do. All right, so this is my oldest son's bed. It's, I don't know, I want to say maybe like 5 or 6 feet long. It's not super long, and it's also not super full. Over that way, there's some valerian, which is a big, beautiful plant. And then we got some grapes that we just put in that's looking a little rough, specifically because there hasn't been water. And then a watermelon that's doing great because watermelon loves heat and abuse and all of that. So we've got a little watermelon growing that I need to show my son later. And I'm just going to, I've got this connected to the tubing on this side, and I'm just going to measure how far this needs to go. Connect 2 more of these guys. So we've got this guy. Grabbing a corner bracket. do. Tubing in. Oh, my elderberries are almost done. Wow. Can't believe how late the season's gone. All right, and then I'm gonna cut this just below here. Throw this guy on. And it'll set up like this. And then I'm probably gonna end up using stakes for now, just so I don't have to grab extra hardware. But I've got my brown tubing here that's got the holes every 18 inches. So I need to line it up so we've got, at the bare minimum, the watermelon's getting water. Okay. One point of order. If you cut it right on the hole like I did, it's got this like stuff inside that makes it really hard to fill. So I'm gonna cut that off. To the side so I remember it. This is all 1/2 inch tubing. Also, you can get, I believe you can get 1/4 inch. I know you can get bigger tubing. Honestly, I just picked whatever looked like the most kind of standard, and it works fine. I don't know. I was kind of at the point where I was just like, I just need to get this done, and I did. Okay, so I'm gonna get a few of the stake things. Actually, I just took one up to move this. So this is rusty. They don't look this rusty when you first get them, but these stakes are helpful for keeping stuff held where you want it. So I'm gonna stake right next to this grape, because I'm worried about it getting enough water. I might end up adding another line along here later on, especially if we get more planted here. But I think for right now, this is going to keep those plants alive. We're gonna have some like 100-degree weather this week, and I just really was worried about losing the plants that we just literally bought and put in. We had to buy grapes and we bought that watermelon. So I hate losing plants, but I especially hate losing plants that I actually spent money on. So I'm gonna grab one more stake, and then I think that should do it for this, and we can get it capped off. All right, and normally I use a specific cap piece for this, but they were sold out, and so I just got a capper thing and one of the two-way plugs. This cap is apparently removable, which is cool. So later on, if I decide that I want to add more tubing, I can just do that right here, which is perfect. So I'm just going to add this on to the end. It's really helpful to have something that opens, and also like the caps that I've used also have a removable end. And those are important because at the end of the season, you want to be able to flush out your water, especially if you're in somewhere that freezes. So I'm going to use this tool with the hole cutter guy, and I'm just going to put a hole right towards the edge of this and get it as close to the valerian as possible. I'll definitely be adding some tubing later on, but this is just a very quick fix for what we're doing. Got this guy right towards the edge, and I'm just clamping down, same as if I'm cutting it. So hopefully that'll take care of us for the day, and I'll be able to have these lovely plants survive and flourish even in unbearably hot weather, which I'm not looking forward to, but at least I don't have to go out in it and water. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. If you have any questions about irrigation or anything garden related, always pop them in the comments. I'm always happy to give you what I know or send you to someone who knows more than me. And I encourage you to try this. Even if you have a small garden, it can be so helpful not having to go out and water, and be able to focus your garden time on actually, you know, tying up plants and keeping on top of pests and stuff like that. So thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a lovely day. I hope to see you very soon. Okay, bye.